So what's up YouTube? This is Connor the Language Czar, and today I'm going to take a journey, little trip that I've been thinking about for the last few summers that I've been coming to Ukraine, and that's to go to Gammelfänksby. Now Gammelfänksby, believe it or not, is a village where apparently, if I'm to believe what I see on the internet, there are people who speak Swedish, which is completely crazy. This guy is the connection between Sweden and Ukraine. This dude is Yaroslav the Wise. Now, he was the Grand Prince of Veliki Novgorod and Kiev. Now, what's interesting is that he married the daughter of the King of Sweden. So, surprisingly, there is this bloodline between Sweden and Ukraine that goes back to the 11th century. And moreover, one of his daughters, in fact, married the future King of Norway. So that Scandinavian connection was preserved through intermarriage. Now, that's not where the connections between Sweden and Ukraine actually end. In 1709, the Swedish army suffered a defeat at Poltava, which lies in modern-day Ukraine. And there it was actually the end of the expansion of the Swedish Empire. They're defeated by the Russians, and it marked the end. The Swedish Empire started to decline, the Russian Empire continued to expand. Have you ever heard of Swedish village in Ukraine?
Alltså jag har hört om det, någon som nämnde att det skulle finnas något, men jag är lite osäker på om det är, alltså, det är en person som har sagt det och resten har som förnekat att de var nej, det stämmer inte, men have you been there? Or is it true?
That's where we're going to find out in the video. We're about to hop on the bus and let's go to Kherson, and then in the morning to the Swedish village in Ukraine called Gammelfänksby. So here we are in Kherson, which is the closest city to Gammelfänksby. We're very close to Crimea. We're just on the shores of the Dnieper River, and today is actually the city's birthday. Prost, cheers, Sloincha, and I guess in Ukraine we should say Budmo or Na zdrowie. So we have some of the equipment ready for the trip. So we're about to leave Kherson and go to Smilivka, which is the village that Gammelfänksby is part of. This is kind of exciting because we don't really know if there are Swedish speakers there or not. I mean, I just read some things online, and this is a similar experience to what I had when I was in Brazil. And there I went to look for a Ukrainian village. No one had heard about it, none of the locals, but it did exist. So I'm really optimistic that when we get there, there'll be some Swedish speakers. So let's go to Smilivka. I'm not sure exactly, but does that sound like Swedish? Not really sure. What do you guys think?
Многих людей, которые ещё дома, например, говорят по-сведски.
Ну, такі вже старі.
Есть.
Ну, у нас і дітей учили в школі, приїжджали, шведка учила, та Кристина оця.
Да? Есть школа светская, где по-сведски изучают?
Зараз ні, а раніше учила діти, оце вона возила їх в Швецію, на екскурсії.
Хорошо. И там много гостей приходят в село, которые интересуются историей, которые там, светская история, которые там, может быть, родственники мертвые уже хотят найти.
Та є,
часто
король приїжджав.
Король светский, да?
Да, по
Тож нам
телевизору
навіть
было.
дорогу зробили там, наче ж не було прямо
Да,
дороги.
что правильно.
А вообще есть тут действующая церковь на территории?
Там у нас їх, ото шведська, потім православна, потім там зараз католицька, все буде відкриватися.
So here we are, we made it. There actually is some Swedish culture, at least some evidence of Swedish culture. This village was originally 3 villages, and 2 were German and 1 was Swedish. So there's going to be a mix we're looking for in terms of architectural legacy from both those German and Swedish settlers who came here. The actual church looks like it's been recently painted, so there's definitely been some money invested in maintaining this. As you can see, the river, right in the river Dnipro, which is the main river in Ukraine. And so we're also interested to see if we can spot anything in the faces of people here to suggest that they have some Swedish or maybe even German ancestry, not just the normal mix that you find here in Ukraine, which is predominantly Slavic. So here I am in front of a memorial written in Swedish, and it actually says in memory of the innocent Swedish villagers who were lost or disappeared. So this is during the Great Terror by Stalin, where he basically had huge numbers of people murdered. And now we're in the Swedish part of the village, and this is really what Gammelstensky is. We have this church here, this Swedish Lutheran church, and now we're going to go look and see if we can find people actually still speak Swedish. So let's see if they exist or if this is something that is just in fantasy land. So here we are outside the house of a real Swedish speaker in the south of Ukraine. So let's go and see what she has to say.
Нам сказали, что вы один из малых людей, которые еще говорят хорошо по-светски.
Goddag, hur är det bra eller dåligt? Хорошо или плохо?
Как вас зовут?
Мария.
Мария.
Мальмас.
Малмас. Мария Малмас.
Я тут родилась, да, і Гамельсвенсбі. І папа мій тут родився, і мама тут родилися, діти мої тут родилися, і внуки, і правнуки в мене вже.
Сколько лет вам?
Ага, угадай.
Да. Вы говорите на 4 языка, да?
Ну, та я не говорю на 4 язика, ні. Я саме лучше по-шведски. У мене і мама шведка, і папа швед. И мы все время говорили дома по-старошведски. Här var tyskbya 3, och en by var svenskar.
Svenska.
Ты не понимаешь по-шведски?
Да, по-шведски чуть-чуть понимаю.
Это было в 1782 году. Катерина II большая привезла из Дагö сюда шведов. То вот здесь не было ничего.
Ничего раньше.
Да, уже мой дедушка здесь родился в 1872 году. 100 лет после того, как уже пришли сюда первые шведы.
Получилось, что вы раз были в Швеции?
В Швеции, да, я была, мы со своим братом ездили в 75 году. Еще был Советион. Я. Сваха у мене по сусідству жила, Ельза, вона німка. І в мене зять німець. Вольдемар. Ходили с богослужения и пели по-шведски, и говорили по-шведски, их крестили детей по-шведски, их хоронили по-шведски людей. Barn heter vi också som på svenska. Namn. Och på svenska. Och arbete också på svenska.
So we're about to leave Gammelstensby. It's been an interesting time here. So far we've managed to get a good overview of the history, speak to lots of locals. Swedish language and culture is not as strong as people claim it was a generation ago, which is no surprise as people have been here now for a few generations and cut off from Sweden, but they have had great visitors like the King came here, also Carl Bildt came to visit, the former foreign minister of Sweden, so it still has occasionally a connection with the, I guess, motherland that is Sweden. If you like this video, then give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you already aren't, and be sure to go and check out my free training program. There's a link to that below the video in the description. So it's Do Pobacenia, Do Svidania, and most importantly, Hej då from the Oleshki Sands in the very south of Ukraine near to Kherson, which is actually this big area that's kind of like a desert that's a bit crazy to find in the middle of nowhere. So, see you in the next video.